Sure.
but all kinds of things that happen in these
and
bars.
people come to bars with their last $5, or if they just hit the lottery. I mean, it's like bars are one of those places. It's the common denominator. Like anybody can get a 6-pack and go home and drink or whatever, but people come to a bar for a reason.
You got to have that reason.
Yeah.
You got to provide a reason for them
right.
to come to your place, and not only home, but all the other bars you're competing against.
Sure.
Those also, so you got to separate yourself from those, which you kind of done because of the music venue type thing that you created.
Well,
now,
and you know what? There's starting with bartenders. There's people that tend bar, and then there's real bartenders, and so I was a real bartender, and then there's people that buy bars, and then there's bar owners.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Level Up Cleveland, and this week we have Nick Summa in here with us.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing?
Yeah, man. Nick, let's see, where do we start? Nick owns, first of all, let's just talk about the bars you own, because that's, you own Gino's.
Yep.
At the top of the hill right here on
yep.
Denison and Harvard, almost right where they come together,
right
by the bridge.
Hill there.
Yeah, right.
I flipped my mountain bike down that thing one time.
Really?
Brutal. I almost got ran over in traffic.
Yeah, your dad used to own that at Gino's, but now your
Yeah.
dad has passed recently. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
You also own the Old Brooklyn Social Club?
Yep.
And that's on what, Broadview?
Broadview Road, yeah. About a block up from where all the streets come together.
Yep.
Like Pearl and, yeah.
And the main place, for us at least, that you own is the Maple Grove over there in Maple Heights.
Absolutely.
Which where the Level Up concert series concert will be at. I mean, that's where we're doing it at. We're going to have Alethea there, Bittersweet Revenge there, and Craig Martini.
Yeah, it's going to be great, though.
Hell yeah, that'll be June 10th. Mm-hmm. And you own that bar.
Long time.
And we'll talk about a little bit about that bar specifically because you've done a lot to that place, and that bar is it's kind of like a Cleveland, whatever you want to call it, but it's a venue. It's one of the best music venues around for the smaller.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, for the smaller venues that are out there, there's not one better.
Yeah, I'm a band guy, and I built it for bands.
Yeah, and you were always in a music thing. You end up getting this bar. You could make it 2 levels, and you did, and it's got a bar on top. It's got the bar on the bottom. I think when Terry from Alethea was in here, he described it best. He was saying, he's like, it's great. You can come in, you go upstairs. There's going to be a great band playing. You got a bar. You got people serving you drinks. It's all right within a couple feet of each other. You don't have to go far. And if you get hungry, you just take a little walk downstairs. They got food. You can order food. You keep drinking. Everyone's happy.
It's got the patio. It's pretty cool
you
setup.
can do it. And one thing I love about that place is it's got ample parking. It's the parking there is not like anywhere else where you got enough parking for everybody.
Right.
You're not parking on the streets. You're not parking. It's a beautiful parking lot. It's an awesome place to go see a show.
Excellent. Thanks for saying so.
I think so. I've always thought so. I've played there a few times. Pat and I we've played there. We've come there on a few jam nights. You do the jam nights there also.
17 years I did every Thursday. I think I missed 3 in all those years.
Yeah, and
that's really when I became a good player. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I was always a rocker dude, but just jamming every Thursday for
with other people and all that kind of stuff.
I would turn around some days. There'd be a whole different set of people, like the band. I'm like, wow, where'd these guys come from?
Right,
it was cool.
Yeah, and you always had that place always had a real good sound system. You always had basically when you'd play at your place, you were one of those first places where you came in, you took the door if you were the band, you let the band whatever they brought in, whatever they sold, you gave them all of that. Basically, you were just saying, "Sell me some drinks, guys. Get some people in here. That's what you're here to do." Yeah. They got the door. And you would even provide the sound guy. You provided all
everything,
that. Yeah. I mean, it was it still is. I mean, it's still the same setup.
We always 4 bands tonight.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always stuff going on there, and we're happy that we're involved in that. And we're
on.
Yeah,
Thanks. I'm
can't
happy
wait.
that you guys are having me here. You
Hell
guys
yeah.
are cool. Like rock and roll has always been grassroots. I mean, that's how you market this stuff, and you guys are 21st century grassroots.
I appreciate that a lot,
it's huge.
man.
I'm a fan of the show. Yeah.
You got and Gino's real quick. That was where we shot the Spooktacular. That was where we shot the Halloween episode where we had Ricky Ray.
Yeah, he's
down
the king,
there.
Man. That guy.
Yeah, you love Ricky Ray. You were telling me we were like, oh my gosh, one of my favorite guitar players. He's awesome. And we had Ed Miller, we had Mike Webster, and we had Angel Divide. Yeah, we had all them guys down there for that too. And you own all these bars, and yeah, a lot of, you know, you're a pretty popular guy. A lot of people know who Nick Summa is and stuff like that, nice. You know, because you're also in the music scene. Yeah. And you're also in a band called the Cleveland Steamers, which you're in right now. It's just punk rock, pretty much, kind of hard rock and roll. And
I call it adult contempo punk because we're aging punk rockers. So yeah, we coined a phrase for this band.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Adult contempo
punk. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that's the main reason why you're down here, really, is to talk about the Cleveland Steamers. Yeah. But you're involved in so many different things. There's so many times there's always something going on with you, Ben. You got a lot of stories to tell. So let's get into this.
Right on. Right.
So basically, long time ago, obviously you got into music because you've been a music fan longer than you've been a bar owner, basically.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you start how does music start for you?
Okay, my parents owned a bar in Middleburg Heights. It was called the Suburban at Bagley and Pearl.
I know the Suburban, yeah.
We had a back room there, and they used to let bands rehearse there for money. And I started hanging around with all these cats there and stuff. Burnt River Band era. Like that Jesse dude. He's like, these rings are only good for two things, riding and fighting. Like one of those cats. So I was a little, impressionable kid, and I saw that, and I'm like, wow, that'd be kind of cool.
And that's what started your...
And you know what? I got to tell you the truth. I was just talking about this last night. My very first stage was, I grew up in West Park when they started busing. I moved out to the suburbs. And my first stage was, I was an altar boy in a Catholic church. And I remember standing on that stage and looking out and going, holy shit, that's pretty cool. Like, wow, check out all these people watching me. And I was just wearing my little smock and ringing my little bell or whatever.
That's interesting. Yeah. That was
where I kind of said, ooh, I like that. Yeah.
You like the attention, basically. You realize you're like, I kind of like attention a little.
For being a dorky little kid, on the west side of Cleveland, I'm like, ooh, wow, look at that. People are paying attention to me. Yeah.
So you're saying, so this is interesting because, like, I ask you how you get started in music, and what your answers are to me are more about like the live aspects of playing music.
Absolutely.
Like you were almost more in love with the idea of playing music before you were even listening to music. Almost, it seems like. Well, would that be accurate?
Child of the '70s with older brothers. I grew up listening to all that stuff. It was always around the house. So
what were you listening to? What would be some of the stuff? The first stuff you remember?
Like Zeppelin. So the Deep Purple kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I went right from Iron Maiden, like in the '80s in high school. I was a metal dude, listened to Bill Peters constantly, that kind of thing. Oh yeah. That guy kind of changed the course of everybody's life.
Yeah, right. Well, he still is.
He is.
He's still changing the course.
He is the man. Seriously, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Lifelong, 40 years doing that stuff.
So you were doing all the thrash and all the metal and all the death metal and stuff for a while.
It's kind of crazy. I went right from Iron Maiden to punk. Like I backtracked. I went to I was learning all these modes and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait a minute, cool, and a couple chords and a cloud of dust, and you're rocking it.
You found something that felt good.
It just hit. Yeah, it was like I like the energy of the punk.
And what was like so when you first start playing music, are you into the metal part then, or are you?
Yeah. Tried. I mean, we had these little feeble metal bands. I had a Rush tribute band in high school, that kind of thing. I could still play 2112 whole album side.
No kidding.
It's kind of sloppy at this.
You just don't forget it, huh?
Yeah,
just like riding a bike almost.
Exactly.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So
then after that, see where we're at. Oh, we were at the Suburban. So then after that era, I hooked up with this dude named Floyd, and Floyd had this band. It started in 1986. I joined in 1988, and it was wild. He was a little bit older. He was like 30. I was like 18 or 19. And I'm like, wow, I'm in this band with this dude that's so old. And he was playing the old flats. Like, remember all those old bars down there?
Sure.
Yeah, like Sabres and all that shit. And it kind of blew me away. And then a buddy of mine, Dan Phillips, ended up getting into the band. And then, long story short, here we all ended up going to the same high school different years. We all went to Normandy. Floyd was there, and like the first year it was open. I was there, 15 years later or something. But so small world. So Danny gets in the band. I'm watching Danny play, and then they're like, hey, we want to add a second guitar player. And I'm like, cool, all right. So, brought my little Flying V down to Cleveland. The rehearsal space was East 25th in St. Clair. And Floyd lived in the place. It was like a little rat house called 1385. Kind of a legendary punk rock scene. It had an alley, and we'd have parties there. And it was
cool.
Cool.
Very, yeah.
Anybody like into that scene back then knew about 1385. Starvation Army lived in the front house, and we had the back house, and party every day. It was a blast.
Awesome. Wild
like
parties.
The Pagans and all those dudes, like everybody hanging out. And so I got into Floyd's band, and then after about 4 gigs, I think, 3-4 gigs, we played with 7 Seconds at the Fantasy. So it was 2 guitars, drums, bass, and then Floyd in front. And the reason it's Floyd Band is pretty much like the Rick Ray story. Everybody would be like, hey, let's go see Floyd's band. And it just became Floyd Band.
Oh.
And we had this cool logo where it was FLOYDBAND, like little square stickers. And we spray paint that on buildings all over, grassroots marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was really, really cool to be involved in that. And then after, that gig with 7 Seconds at the Fantasy, it was like a big sold-out show. And we hired these strippers to come on stage for a song called Trashy Girl. And they climbed out of garbage cans, with like trash bags on them. And the bass player's wife got super pissed. So she made him quit the band. And, I went out. We had tons of gigs. We were playing 3-4 nights a week. So I went out and bought a bass, and then the rest is history. I've been the bass player in the Floyd Band for 34 or 5 years now.
And you're still doing that, too?
Oh, yeah. It's still, Floyd's 67. He's a local artist now. He's always down at that 78th Street gallery on the third Fridays. And he makes refrigerator magnets. And he'll commission anything, or he does rock bands, cartoons. He even sold one to Geraldo Rivera, that news guy from 60 Minutes.
Oh, yeah. So he's doing like custom...
they're these tiny little refrigerator magnets, and they're $20. And he goes, it's easier to sell a $20 magnet than it is to sell a $400 painting. And he's gotten a lot better. He's a really good artist now. And given the fact he's crazy old Floyd from the Floyd Band.
Yeah, right,
it gives him
right.
some street cred. And,
hell yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of neat to see him do that. He gets to ride it out in the sun with an Etsy account. Yeah.
So at what point? So you're in this band, the Floyd Band.
Yeah.
And I take it you're just meeting a lot of people along the way through this whole thing. You're meeting other musicians, that kind of thing.
I was bartending. I was still working at the Suburban Bar and all that. So,
okay, yeah, right.
So we had a record in, I don't know, 89 or 90. It was called I Burped and Puke Came Out My Nose. And it actually did pretty good. It charted in Helsinki, Finland, actually.
Really?
And coincidentally, the highest suicide rate in the world, I think, at that time. So we're like, oh, yeah, it's kind of cool, man. Yeah. Listen to Floyd Band and off yourself. So we had a distribution deal with Semaphore. We paid for everything ourselves, but they distributed it for us. And it worked out okay. I mean, we never really made any money at it, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
But, man, we played with everybody from Marky Ramone, Dee Ramone when he had the Chinese Dragons, Social Distortion, Foghat. Oh, man, we played with so many bands.
So this was like a major time in your life.
Yeah,
you didn't have to be making money. You were making
it was cool.
Memories.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were like a band of brothers doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then I did a stint in a band called Starvation Army for a while. We toured a lot. They were on Rave Records out of Philadelphia. And so that was the van years, like we were
right, so you had a van that you were turning out of. Tough times, though,
yeah,
right? Like, it's both fun, but like it's also a pain in the ass doing it out of a van.
Drop a drive shaft in the middle of Texas and spend about 3 days. Yeah, those are good times. So then in the 90s, I had that Public Display of Infection band, and it's kind of a complicated story. Floyd's ex-wife, who is Tom from the Floyd Band's brother. Wait a minute, no, it's confusing. So Floyd was married to Roseanne. Roseanne is the guitar player's older sister. She ended up after Floyd. She was married to Floyd. After she was married to Floyd, she hooked up with Dale Peters from the James Gang. So we had access to this legendary rock star guy. So me and Tom from the Floyd Band, who is his brother-in-law, we started this little project. Tom had one called Zip Gun Tragedy, and I had one called Make It Stop. So then Make It Stop morphed into this other one called Public Display of Infection. Radio DJ got the spine of the CD wrong, because I think the graphics dude Pete from the Floyd Band put like the name here and the title there. It was reversed.
Yeah, right. So everyone thought.
Everybody thought it was Public Display of Infection. Since Dale Peters kind of worked on it, he played on the first couple songs, and then he produced the first record. He came in the studio with us, and he's like, like we were smoking weed, and he's like, you kids shouldn't be smoking that devil weed. And we're like, you're Dale from the James Gang, man, telling us stories about dropping acid in Amsterdam and trashing hotel rooms with the Who. And so anyway, because of that, some intern got it from MMS, and they played it every day. It was like in full rotation. It was crazy. And then we ended up playing like this big festival called Buzzard Fest at Blossom, open up for like Alanis Morissette. There was like 30,000 people.
Wow.
That's probably the biggest thing I ever played.
Wow.
It was pretty wild. Yeah,
wow.
It was a good day. But yeah, we were literally getting played every day, 6-7 times a day. And I went and played live on MMS one time, and they're like, "Oh, don't worry, there's only 1 million people listening right now." And I blew a guitar part. I did. It's like the moment, like, oh man, I screwed up.
Do you think it was nerves? Was it nerves that did it, or was it just...
Yeah, I think it was because it was so early in the morning. It was like 8 a.m.
Oh yeah,
So it was the morning drive time, and being a bartender, I'm up till 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that wasn't your hours.
So I was dead tired, and we're standing out there. And I think it was winter time. It was cold, and yeah, it was a long day. But it was fun. And I guess for a while they had a picture of me and a couple of the guys. They had us hanging up in the studio. So that's kind of
really
cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
So then what? So I mean, like, I'm trying to figure out how you get to the Steamers part. You know, like how long before you get to there.
So,
and these are basically all punk bands that you're talking. So
pretty much, yeah. And they were established. I mean, these aren't like basement bands. These are bands out there doing it. You know.
What exactly? Why do you change? Why are you in so many bands if it's all the same? I guess is what my question would be. Like, is there something you're getting different out of each one of these?
Yeah.
Is the reason why you're doing it like that?
Yeah, it's different relationships. I mean, bands are like having 5 girlfriends or whatever. You know, but they're relationships.
Yeah, right.
And it's hard to make something. I don't know. It's just interesting. I've been in
different chemistries create different things that you're interested in. It's like, with these guys I can do this, but with these guys I can do that.
Yeah, and I love to play. So like I would be in 2-3 bands at once, actually. Like
just
Floyd
to play
Band's
more
always
often.
in the background, and then we had PDI, which is going on at the same time. And then after I bought the Grove, I started to band hop a little bit. I played in the Velvomatics a bunch of times at different eras, and they started off as like a garage rock band. We wore leather suits and skinny white ties, and it was kind of cool. And our manager was Wally Palmer from the Romantics.
Oh,
he knew Little Johnny Vincenzo, and he's the main Velvomatic dude. And that band morphed from that leather suits and blue eyeshadow, and now they play Hell's Angels parties. They went all full on biker, and it's really cool. John's an awesome dude. They all are. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
So then I was doing that, and then I joined Amps 211 for a while after. I can't remember the guy's name, but I was the other guitar player. It was me and Aaron Dow, and so that was fun. And then after that, I joined a band called 45 Spider, and that was a fuzz garage rock band.
Oh.
And that's the one we ended up having a song that was the coolest song in the world on XM radio.
Yeah, and so how did that work out for you? How does that become that?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Hadley from the band, she kind of knew the guy from what's the name of the band? He's a DJ on XM radio on the Undergarage channel. The Woggles. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that dude. So she kind of got it to him, and they liked it. Played it for Little Steven, and then they dug it. And it was a cover tune from the Banana Splits Little Kids TV
That's
show.
So crazy.
And I guess allegedly it was written by one of the Mothers of Invention.
Oh,
yeah, so somebody
Zappa's
like that. Yeah. And the tune was called "Gonna Find a Cave," and it was kind of a hokey song, but it was fun, and it got played all over the world on that XM channel.
No
so
kidding.
That was pretty groovy. They said like 3 million people a play was listening to it. So.
How is it you think that all these bands that you've been in have always had a little taste of success? Like you've had like a little from each one of them.
I would go for the bands that were being
so
successful.
you were just like you had a good intuition about it.
Right?
Yeah.
They were already doing it. I'd be like, hey man, I'm here. I'll jump in on this thing. Yeah.
No kidding.
And I had a little bit of street cred because I had the Maple Grove all those years, and I jammed with a lot of cats on the jam nights there. So they're like, oh, that's Nick. He can rip it. You know.
No kidding.
I primarily always, except for Floyd Band, I play guitar. And I sing, like, so I'm playing at my old Brooklyn bar tonight, and I'll be singing. I have a little trio, bass player, drummer. And we let the crowd shout out the tunes, and I'll try to play them. And I'm not afraid of crashing and burning. Fearless. I'm literally
isn't that the best?
It.
But isn't that like the recipe that you need to really kind of, isn't that like the mentality you kind of got to have to really get the most fun out of doing this kind of stuff?
It is.
Is that you're not going up there all tentative about like making a mistake or something like that?
Don't play to the musicians in the room. Play to the little girl shaking her butt, or play to the dude tapping his foot. Yeah.
Well, and I think
musicians are going to stand there like this, and they're going to be like, "Oh no, I could do that. If I was me, yeah."
The real musicians don't though. I don't think.
Right.
I think the real musicians are like, because they all fuck up, right?
Yeah,
everybody does. So it's like a real musician that's watching you. I know exactly what you mean because they do. But the real ones, the ones that really know. They're not hammering anybody for fucking up. They're like, you know what I mean? They're basically like, oh, you know, maybe no one noticed it or whatever. They understand, but yeah, because really, I mean, it's like you know, you can't You have to put your guard down and go out there and just let it all hang out. Then you'll have fun doing this shit.
Yeah,
you have a lot of fun, especially doing punk rock.
Run fearlessly into the face of danger. That's what we do. Yeah,
honestly, man,
and it's a blast, man. I love it.
Especially, I mean, that is the lure of punk rock too. Yeah. I mean, there are no rules, and you just go ape shit. I mean, that's really what it's about, you know. So, so that this was all. When did you acquire the Maple Grove?
It was 1997.
Oh, it's been that.
So yeah, it's been we're it'll be 26 years this fall.
No kidding, man.
Yeah, and I did those jams every Thursday religiously for 17 years, and I think I probably missed I didn't have any money, so I couldn't travel during that era, you know. But so I think I missed 3 or 4 in all those years.
So you mean are you telling me that owning the Maple Grove doesn't make you a multimillionaire? I mean,
yeah, not yet. Yeah, I'm still the first guy to grab the mop bucket if somebody pukes.
Is that right?
Yeah, once a bartender, always a bartender, man.
Yeah, right, man.
In fact, usually if anybody asks me, I don't tell them. I just say I'm a bartender.
You don't tell them that you own the place, yeah. You just let it. If they don't know, then.
And I don't look like the stereotypical bar owner guy, which works great for like inspectors.
You don't look, you don't act like that guy.
I'll be sitting right next to somebody though, like a sales rep will come in and be like, "I'd like to speak to the owner," and the bartender's like, "No, he's not here." I just sit there and smile.
That's awesome, man. So basically, as far as when you're saying you're joining these bands and stuff. Was there recording processes through all this? Are you making albums with these bands also?
Yeah,
and then
a couple of them. Amps to 11, I'd never recorded with. Velvomatics, I never. Oh, I may have. For the most part, all these bands. Counting compilation singles, LPs, and one double, I have 15 records floating around out there.
No kidding. So, all with different bands and different whatever.
All different everything. Yeah, and the Steamers thing now, it's on the. 4 full lengths. We're working on the 5th right now, and then 1, 2, 3 singles.
Yeah,
so that's got pretty good body work right there.
Yeah, I think we can go over a couple of these now real quick. Let's get it out there and let people know what they can go look for. So in 2013, you put out an album called Terminal.
Yes, that was the first one. Yeah.
Right.
So that, Okay.
So and then 2014, very next year, you put out an album. This greatest name. Who's next?
Who's next?
Yeah, I mean,
right. Yeah.
Little cover, maybe. And then 2018, best record ever.
Best record ever.
Yeah, so you named it the best record ever.
Yeah.
That's great, man. I was wondering when I first saw that, I was like, what an interesting name for a record. This is the best record ever. But actually, it was because it was labeled the best record.
Yeah, that's the name of it.
Yeah, right.
And some guy did a Google review or an Amazon review, and he goes, "This record's a piece of garbage." He's like, "Best record ever, my ass." I thought that was great.
And what's funny is if you're in a punk rock band, that's exactly the kind of shit. That's what you want to hear.
Yeah,
you want to hear stuff like that. It's like, oh, perfect. That's exactly what we were going for.
Yeah, and these bands aren't thrash punk. I mean, we're actually pretty decent musicians.
Oh, so it's but even that's still well, punk has its attitude,
like the energy of it.
You got to have the attitude of punk, right? Otherwise, it's not punk. It wouldn't know. You can't fool the punk rockers. Yeah, right, you really can't, man. So. When this band formed, when you were doing the Cleveland Steamers, did you basically it's interesting how this band formed.
Yeah,
the Steamers
there's a story for sure.
Yeah, you want to just tell? You tell it instead of me telling it.
So there's this rocker dude from Cleveland. He passed. I don't know. It's got to be 11, 12 years ago now. His name was Lair Lewis. Went by Lair Maddock and Keith Maddock, and he was in a bunch of bands, probably 15 or 20 bands. The biggest ones probably being AK-47s or the Bronx. So Lair was one of those dudes. We had a band years ago called Hangover Falls together. And it was kind of cool. The logo was Hangover Falls. You wouldn't want to live here. That's really neat. And Lair was always writing songs. And super talented dude, quirky, and like long hair, punk rock dude. And so anyway, he caught some shit luck and he got throat cancer. So he's like, "Hey, I want to make one last record before I go or whatever." And it was sad. Like the cover of the record is his radiation mask for his treatments. And Lair being a broke punk, he had no money or insurance. So they pulled all his teeth out doing an experimental procedure. And it was sad. He kept his hair and he dyed it like bright orange. And it was kind of cool. So we made this record called the Lair-Matic Assembly. And Larry's like, "Do you want to do this?" And he was really good friends with Cheese from the Steamers too. So I was at the Plaza at the Rock Hall watching one of those bands play on a Wednesday. And Steve-O from Death of Samantha was there. And I'm like, hey, we're going to do this thing for Larry, and we need a drummer. And he's like, oh, I'd love to. He's like, it'd be, whatever, flattered. And so Steve-O, me, Cheese, and Larry did this record. And this girl, I can't think of her name right now, but she filmed it and made a little thing. You can find it on YouTube. It's like called The Story of the Laramatic Assembly. And she made like a little mini movie and interviewing us, and Larry's talking. And
give us a shout out. Do your intro.
Was this videotaping too? Hi, my name is Laramatic. I've been a musician in Cleveland since 1978. Last October, I was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. But that fucking thing's slowing me down. Continuing recording, and there's my new band up there right now. We're recording 4 songs, and it's called Last Laramatic Assembly. I ain't got no voice today. That's okay. I ain't got no teeth because I yanked them all out during my treatment. But I'm dying a fucking punk rocker because that's where I was. So this is a recording of the songs with my band in the studio. A little more about me. I've played in bands since 78. I've been in 21 bands. This is my 21st band in my life. That's all I got for now.
All right.
then Cheese speaks last, and it was post-mortem. It was kind of weird because we were all optimistic, like, Larry might beat this, and you never know. And then there's Cheese, and he did his interview at the Maple Grove, and we darkened the room, and he's like, well, your life's reduced to 5 or 6 boxes of stuff, and then somebody shelves it all, and that's all there is. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was kind of weird. So anyway, after that, we were like, well, we got this thing going. So I would get drunk at the Grove and text Cheese band names, and I wanted to name it the Finger Bangers. And he's like, no, that'll never get played on the radio. I'm like, come on, man, Cheese Border and the Finger Bangers, man. And so we settled on the Steamers. I would just drunk text him every night, something stupid. And
it settled on that one.
Yeah, so that was the name. And then we did the Terminal record. And yeah, interesting, Cheese's wife, Meredith, she, for years, like 20 years, I think, she was the curator of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh.
So she had the opportunity to rub elbows with all these sort of, famous rock star people. And it became a novelty for some of these punk dudes to come and guest on it. So the Terminal record in 2013, Nick Knox from the Cramps, before he passed away, he came and did like 2 or 3 songs on it.
Oh, wow.
And then John D. Morton, he was in the Electric Eels. And like John's this crazy dude, he lives in New York. And if you go to MoMA, the Modern Art Museum, there's a picture of him on the wall sitting there shooting up. And he'll go stand in front of it and be like, that's me, and nobody believes him because it's like a young John Morton, yeah. So anyway, he came, and he was a really weird dude. This guy, man, yeah, he had tattoos all over, and he's like, anybody want to see my dick tattoo? And I'm like, hell yeah, man. So he had this like red and blue line that went all around his body, and then it went around everything. And he said his wife had to fluff him like for 5 minutes, and then the guy put the needle to it. Boom! He said it took like 9 hours to make these 2 little lines around it. Yeah.
Oh my God,
but
dude.
It was fun. Yeah. And if anybody wants to Google John Morton from the Electric Eels, and you'll see he's like those guys would like have chainsaws on stage whipping them around. They were proto-punks. They were like the first guys to do it.
Crazy
even
shit.
before like the Dead Boys and like Perubu era.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Crazy.
So anyway, yeah, it was a novelty to guest on the Steamers records. So we had several of those people. Even those little kids, you hear, they're not kids anymore. They're men. Do you remember Archie and the Bunkers from maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. We even did, they played on one of the records, and we did a single with them too, and that was really cool. It's called Hung Up on You, and it got some spins.
No kidding.
And, yeah, so we just keep doing it, and there's kind of a revolving door. It's always been me and Cheese, and or Cheese and I should say. And then, so then there was Steve-O, and then after Steve-O, there was, Ryan Foltz. I should probably talk about him. He's an awesome, awesome dude. And Ryan recorded the 2 middle records. The first one we did with a mobile at the Maple Grove. And his name was Mike, and I can't remember, Mike McDonald, I believe. And it was a big mobile, like full deal. And so then the second one we did at Ryan Foltz's studio, and it's, oh man, he's an incredible dude. I was in Amps 211 with him, and I was in 45 Spider with him. He was the drummer. And he's one of Rancid's live sound guys. He goes all over the world with Rancid. He's a music school kid. And he plays the French horn, he plays the tin whistle in that one Boys from County Hall band, or used to anyway.
Shit.
And so he's like the dude. He's that guy. He's like a genius.
Yeah,
he
can do a lot of things. Wears a shitload of hats and the whole
he's just that guy. Plus he builds cars and does all this crazy stuff. So anyway, then Ryan drummed on the middle two. He was our studio guy for the middle two records, and then he played drums on the two records in the middle as well. And then, okay, so we got Ryan, me, Meredith, Cheese, and then, okay, so then we do records, and we're doing it. And then I'm not really quite sure. After 45 Spider, me and Ryan kind of drifted apart for a minute, and just because we were in two bands in a row together. And he's real busy. And so then we got this dude. When I do these little jams, I got 3 little dive bars, Maple Grove being the biggest one of them. And I play once a month at each of them, so I get to play 3 weekends a month.
Oh, so that's how you do it? You just rotate through those and then take one week off?
Nobody gets sick of my antics, so they only see it once a month. You know, if you like when I was doing every week, after a while, it was an old joke. You know? And so what I do is I got 4 or 5 dudes, and I pay them, and I give them a bar tab, and they'll come back me up, and we do these jams, and we don't rehearse, we don't have a name, we don't tell anybody what we're going to play because they don't even know. I just play what's off the top of my head, or I look out in the room and see what people might be into, and I try to do that. And so James is this amazing dude that I met in a band called the Chromes with Brian Allen Hagar.
Oh,
he did an episode.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, we had him in here.
Yeah, so that's how I first met James. I met him years ago in the Floyd Band briefly, and then James was in the Chromes when I auditioned for him, and then we ended up bonding. And he's my dude. He's like my buddy, and he's an amazing talent. He can sing like a dream. He can sing high. He can sing death metal. He can do everything. And he was in that band Crack. You spell it C-R-A, like Craig but with a C. Oh. And they're like an Irish kind of band, like that kind of stuff. And he's a real talented cat. And so, we were talking about the record. So James was my dude on the jams, and I'm like, geez, you should come out and check out this dude because we needed a drummer. Like Ryan was off doing his own thing. And James showed up, and it was magic. Like, he really did fit in perfectly. Yeah. And I think him and I already had that kind of chemistry or synergy going on. So it was pretty easy for him to just jump right in. And I knew what he was capable of. And then when Cheese heard him sing, he's like, oh, dude, you're the guy. Because he does all the things that the singers can't do.
Right.
Yeah, he's really not, But and I think he sings in a cover band too, maybe. But anyway, James, I'll be jamming with him tonight at the old Brooklyn Bar. And then we got him on board. And then for this last record, Meredith and Cheese used to do almost all the singing. And then Meredith wanted to take more of it. She's a lounge singer I think she maybe performed in New York City. She lived there for a while. And she'd be the piano girl in the dress and singing, and I don't know what they call that, lounge acts. And she didn't want to be in front so much anymore because it was kind of like Sonny and Cher, like they're a married couple and they're both doing the vocals.
Yeah.
And Cheese self-admittedly doesn't want to sing. He's like, I'm not a singer. And so he writes most of the stuff, and we marvelously enhance it, as he says, which is kind of cool. That's a great line.
Yeah.
So then we got this last record, we got Chris King, and Chris King had a band in the 70s and 80s, and they were great. They're called the Wild Giraffes, and they were kind of a big deal. Like there was videos and stuff of them floating around, and and he's cool. He's this cool.
And that's who's singing the Steamers now.
Singing Steamers now, and it's a whole different band because of the vocal. I mean, that changes everything.
Oh yeah,
as with any band. So now we got James, we got me and Cheese, and then Chris.
Well, you know what? I'll real quick, I'm going to go over the guys. I don't think I've announced the guys in the band yet.
Okay.
I haven't done that yet. So real quick, like you said, Scott Borger, Cheese. That's who when you're referring to Cheese, it's Scott Borger, and he's like the guy he's the main guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's the bass player.
Yep.
And you said he doesn't want to sing, but he has sung in some.
He didn't sing on the first 3 records.
Right. So, much, but not what he wanted.
Yeah. Or the first 2 records, I should say. Yeah.
And then you play guitar.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Meredith was in the band for a while.
She still is, but she's doing background vocals.
So she stepped in the background, but she was lead singer also. She was one of the singers also in the band for a long time.
And it worked. Her and Cheese's voice were magical together. It's just they chose to pick a different direction with it.
And Meredith is Cheese's wife?
Yes.
Okay, so that's that's the relationship there. And then you have on lead vocals Chris King.
Yep.
And he's from Wild Drafts.
Mm-hmm.
And drummer is James McWilliam.
McWilliam, yep.
Yep. And so, and that's the band right now.
Yeah,
That's the Steamers right now.
That's us.
And like you said, you've had a lot of turnover, but as far as where you guys are at now and how it feels right now, do you anticipate more turnover, or do you feel like
no,
you guys have kind of like feel like you found the...
Anybody that wants to can guest on it. I mean, it's cool. We're
it's like that.
We're just kind of like an open door. Yeah.
That's cool.
And it feels pretty good right now. I think it's going to stay like this. I really do.
You do, like, you think everybody's like,
Yeah.
it's kind of, you found the positions for everybody, and it's good.
Yeah.
What's the future looking like for them? You guys, I mean,
we're doing a new record right now. We got the first 3 in the can already, and the one just came out like in the fall, and it's getting some spins on college radio. It's doing okay. It's paying for itself anyway, and it's on all the platforms. I think. Oh, it was kind of funny. Last time we had a rehearsal, she showed us the royalty check. It was 39 cents. You get like one, I don't know, I forgot, like a fraction of a cent per stream or something on all those platforms. And he's like, "Yeah, we can buy some ramen noodles, man." And
I heard Bill Peters playing it. Yeah, I heard Bill.
cool.
I heard Bill about a month ago. I heard him play it. I'm sure he plays it more often. I haven't listened to him the last couple of weeks, but yeah, he plays it. He's playing your stuff.
Excellent.
So
It's
yeah,
cool.
so that's out there, man.
Yeah, it's out there, and somebody's listening to it somewhere. So.
Hell yeah, man. Now, when you own 3 bars and you're in all these bands, like, is there a time management thing with you where you have to like manage your time accordingly to do all the stuff that you're involved in? Because you seem to be involved in quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, every day's a work day.
Yeah,
you wake up and start, and you don't stop till your head hits the pillow. Like,
is that your life?
Yeah,
is that how it's been always?
Yeah, just do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's crazy to me. I mean, like because as I'm talking to you, and that's what keeps coming into my head. I'm like, where does he find the time to do all this stuff?
Right.
And you know, on top of it, you're writing music also. That you know, that takes time. All this stuff takes time. You just don't walk into a practice space or a studio and it's all done for you. You got to do all this stuff.
It's a lot of homework. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, does the bars, owning the bars and being in the bars and doing all, does it ever help you write songs? Does it ever help you come up with ideas?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
endless source of inspiration.
Yes, I would think so.
And a comedy errors. Yeah. Like bars are really weird. This is like most people's jobs are kind of static. You know, you go kind of do the same thing.
Right.
Bars are all peaks and valleys. Like, man, I've been in such bad situations, and also I've been like floating in heaven by what's just going on in the bar.
Yeah,
it's that feeling. So the dynamic of the bar life is an endless source of and conversations. I mean, you talk to 50 people a day and all that.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, you have an endless supply of like entertainment of all sorts of different types too, not just drunk people, but all kinds of things that happen in these bars.
People come to bars with their last $5, or if they just hit the lottery. I mean, it's like bars are one of those places. It's the common denominator. Like anybody can get a 6-pack and go home and drink or whatever, but people come to a bar for a reason.
You got to have that reason.
Yeah.
You got to provide a reason for them to come to your place, and not only home, but all the other bars you're competing against.
Sure.
Those also, so you got to separate yourself from those, which you've kind of done because of the music venues type thing that you created.
Well, and you know what? There's starting with bartenders. There's people that tend bar, and then there's real bartenders, and so I was a real bartender, and then there's people that buy bars, and then there's bar owners. And the people that buy bars are the ones that go, "Oh, you know what? I've been hanging out in bars my whole life. It's a good idea. I should try that." And then they end up blowing the kids' college fund. I was in a SCORE meeting when I was in college, Service Corps Retired Executives. They said, "Anybody planning to open up a bar or restaurant, raise your hand." And they kicked everybody out. They're like, they said 98% fail in the first 5 years or some statistic like that.
Wow.
So there's a lot of crappy bar owners.
And is that what it all comes down to, you believe? Is just bad business people, bad owners?
People that shouldn't own a bar. You live in the candy store. And if you like to eat candy, it gets you in trouble. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, what was the secret to getting through this pandemic, like with 3 bars and shutdowns and all this stuff that a lot of people didn't get through? I mean, let's just be honest. You got all 3 of them through.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was your trick? What do you think? How did you do that?
I know a couple people personally whose bars failed, and it was, what's the word? The governor never said how long it was going to be. If they just would have come out and said straightforward, okay, then this might be 6 months, brace for it.
It was the whole every.
But I thought that in my head. I'm like, this might go on for a long, long time. So really didn't take any of the government money. Really didn't get any of those PPP loans or nothing, and just kind of sat it out. To be truthful, like lucky.
So you'd saved enough money, you had enough things going on where you waited it out.
That was actually the best summer I ever had that one year because I had a little boat at the islands. And I was out there more times than ever, So I just kind of checked out for as long as I was, and my staff, we all worked together, and I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was tough. I mean, like I think about that a lot. Like you were able to get 3 bars, and
Sure.
and like you called them dive bars. I don't know if I would call them dive bars, but they're not exactly like clubs or anything. These are small bars.
I think those places probably had a harder time.
You're right. Yeah, because they had to pay the rents and stuff.
Gino's was my father's, and he was still alive during that, and we own the buildings too, and that kind of separates us from a lot of bar owners too. Like if you have one of those bars in a plaza, in a strip mall or something,
you're leasing them.
You're just leasing it, and really you have the liquor, and you have your inventory and the fixtures and equipment. That's it. So if we had to of owning the buildings, we could have backed money out. So if this ever happened again, which God I hope it doesn't, we'd be fine. I would just whatever money you need, you just take out of the building. So
it's like you just took a loan against the building and then pay it back.
Luckily, we didn't have to do that at any of them, but yeah.
No kidding.
So that's probably the difference is we're super established by that point. If it would have been the first year, like when I was in my late 20s, man, I was super in debt. Like I had to count every penny every day, I went from being a bartender playing in punk bands to buying the Maple Grove, and I was several $100,000 in debt at the tender age of 29,
Wow.
So, yeah. Ooh.
And it was all gamble. I mean, at that point, you were just taking a gamble, but this was what you really wanted to do. You felt like there was and it paid off. I mean, you were right. Yeah, it turned out you were right.
My old man found the joint. I was looking for a bar with like maybe an apartment above it that I could live in. And I was never in Maple Heights a day in my life. I didn't even know that place existed. And he goes, "You should take a ride out here and look. It's got a house attached, and it's got a big parking lot. It's 2 floors, and it was perfect. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. We got the tavern downstairs and the club up, and
it's not like anywhere else.
It was hard to pass on that deal. Yeah. It really was.
I
owned a house in Old Brooklyn. I just sold the house and used that for the down payment of the bar. And my dad's business partner was cool. He spotted me some dough until I was able to sell the house. And if it wasn't, God rest his soul, if it wasn't for dear old Uncle Al, that's kind of, everything just fell into place. And had I failed, I would be delivering pizzas, I mean, that was it.
Yeah, the Maple Grove is a really unique place because, like you said, depends on where you're looking at that place from to determine like what you're actually seeing. Like if you look from kind of at the front of it, it looks like a fucking house.
Yeah.
It looks like a house on a street.
People drive by, they don't even know it's there.
Yeah, you got to kind of come across to the side of it a little bit, and then all of a sudden you see this long building, and now it's a bar. It looks just like a bar, and you got this huge parking lot. It's just the best of all the worlds.
Yeah, it is. Like
you really have it laid out nicely.
Big old steamship. It's kind of
and it's kind of like another thing that's cool about the Maple Grove is it's in the middle of like a neighborhood. It's kind of like in the middle of a real residential area. Yeah. You're not on a real main road where you got to like cars all over the place. It's kind of quiet outside. You're kind of like secluded.
Park-like atmosphere there.
Yeah, it's a great place.
There's that big field that the gas company owns next door, and so we really don't have like neighbors. There's houses in front. There's houses on the other side, but the bar faces sideways, and so we really don't get noise complaints or anything like that.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, it's a little secluded behind that house there. So
now, have you noticed like since the pandemic ended? I guess you'd say whatever you want to, how you want to word it or whatever, but like the scene, it was just the bar scene in general, but the music scene also. It was taking a little while for it to get back on its feet again and to get things rolling again.
That's a fact. It's still not back 100%.
No, but definitely this year, especially, I have noticed that there's definitely an uptick that we way more than last year, way more than the year before that, obviously, but. Like there's definitely it's coming back. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. Yeah. The paranoid fervor of the pandemic's over now.
Yeah.
People they just didn't want to gather. So
Yeah.
How ridiculous was it to all be wearing masks? And I don't know if you guys remember when you first could go back into bars, the governor had a rule that if you were sitting, you can have your mask off and drink, but if you stood, you had to wear your mask.
Yeah, if you were walking anywhere, you had to have it on.
Apparently the virus doesn't live here. It only lives up here.
There was a whole lot of things about the pandemic that when you look back on it today, in hindsight, you're kind of like, Okay.
If it happened again.
Yeah, right. Well, so,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Anymore, I have no clue what the hell even happened in that whole thing. I really don't.
I know.
It's just so crazy how it all went, but I think we're hopefully out of it. And like I said, my concern always was just basically like that we were going to really change and things. I mean, and I think there has been things that have changed since then, but this scene is what I was hoping stayed intact.
Yes.
And comes out of this on the other end better for it or whatever. And you'd be one of the guys to ask, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We'll see it. We just had the first sold out show since before the pandemic recently.
At the Maple Grove.
Yeah, at the Grove. Yeah, that was cool.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was tribute. There were tribute bands. It was a Black Sabbath trib called Ohio Sabbath, and then an Alice in Chains tribute. And they were really good. And a ton of people came, and nobody was afraid of being asses to elbows. And
Yeah, right, man. That's exactly what it comes down to, right? Like, because that's it. That's the pre-pandemic thing where you could fill a place up. People were sweating on each other, and nobody thought twice about it. And then that pandemic hits, and then all of a sudden, as you're coming out of it, there was that time where I think everybody kind of looked at everybody a little differently for a little while.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you sneezed, every drop had a skull and crossbones on it. Like, oh, how dare you in the room? Yeah.
You're seeing less and less of that.
Yeah,
I think people are saying
they're back.
Like you said when you got here with the guys downstairs, you're like, I'm a handshake guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're like, I think we can shake hands again, guys, right?
Yeah, like I hug, I kiss the girls, and I hug, and I shake hands with the dudes. And,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going on now from this point on with the Steamers as far as what do you see the future of them going? Do you guys, you're going to be gigging this summer, you're going to be putting out a new album here pretty soon.
Yeah.
And when do you think that'll fall? About what the timetable?
Usually takes us, especially with vinyl manufacturing now, it takes about a year to get a record.
So you guys do the vinyls too and everything?
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, everything's on vinyl and CD and all the platforms. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's legitimate. Yeah. And the first 3 and the singles, they were all on Smogvale, which was Frank's label, and they're legit. And Frank decided after he did this big box set for Peter Lofner, and after that he decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So the last one was on Drome Record, which was Johnny Dromet's label. And I don't know all the details about Johnny, but he's a legend. He lives in California now, and he did some of the graphic artwork on it. But yeah, he's
cool.
He did all the Pagan singles back in the day. That was his label's big claim to fame.
Oh, no
and
kidding.
That was like the beginning of Cleveland punk rock, like Dead Boys era stuff. And yeah.
So be a couple months. Maybe the stuff will start coming out.
We usually do 3 or 4 at a time, and then after that we kind of binge purge. We forget them, then we go on to writing the next 3 or 4, and then you do that 4 times, and you got another 12-song record. Yeah.
Another question I have for you, real quick, when I'm thinking about it, is Gino's place. The Gino's at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Santa Ana.
Yeah, you say it Centoan.
Centoan.
Yeah, you got, and people are like, "Hey, Nick, you got Centoano." And do you ever like Americans, we turned it into Gindan. It means 100 years of life.
Oh.
And so it's an Italian toast. And just like when you say ciao, and
it's Italian, a toast. Oh,
yeah,
I see,
it is. So you'd have a drink and go Gindan. But it's Centoan. Yeah.
I got you. There you go.
Kind of morphed. Yeah.
Man, dude, I'm so glad we had that. I'm so glad I mentioned that. I'm not. I can say it right.
Right.
I don't sound like an idiot.
Yeah. The guys at the Italian club always get angry. Yeah.
Is that, they don't like that?
Yeah.
Hey, get it right.
Like when you say ciao, there's an H sound.
Yeah.
So.
I was there. Like I said, we recorded our Spooktacular thing there, but you've also had a couple concerts there. Not that. You had that metal show there. That one.
Cool. Yeah, we did.
Down in the basement,
right? Yeah.
Are you thinking about doing something more of that kind of stuff there? I mean, I
am. Yeah,
it did work out. It seemed like that was successful.
And you know what's really cool there is the floors are concrete and the ceilings.
So you couldn't hear nothing, dude.
You could whisper upstairs, and you didn't even know the metal bands were cranking loud.
You could kind of hear it when you were upstairs, but like outside the place was quiet.
Oh yeah,
you couldn't hear nothing.
There would be no noise.
Yeah, I really think you could do it, and you couldn't do anything obviously real large, but kind of what you did was cool.
I want to do a speakeasy down there. Kind of like a little, like maybe put a door with that little thing that you have to like knock and just something fun.
Can I be the guy that opens the thing?
Yeah, right.
Would you hire me to do that,
right,
please?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that
you must
job.
answer my rule to enter. Yeah.
Oh.
But it might be cool, and you can do tiny little acts, and like that metal show, we just kind of did it, and it worked out great. They normally did that at the Maple Grove for 4 or 5 times, and. Yeah, it was cool. It worked out pretty well.
Well, I mean, the Maple Grove obviously is the better place to do it at because you just have it set up just for the music thing. I mean, it's just, but I mean, like that downstairs is kind of intimate. You got its own little bar down there, and it's got like it's just a nice little setup. And I think that was I just thought it worked out really well. I thought it went went pretty cool. I thought it'd be cool to do some little stuff like there, like some of the smaller bands, stuff like that. That Maple Grove's.
Yeah, you can maybe have 30, 40, 50 people down there, and that's it,
Yeah, where Maple Grove might be a little even too big for some of that stuff. This is like the perfect thing for that.
Yeah, it would be easy to fill that room, that's for sure.
Yeah, it would be cool.
It's right there. It's a perfect location for anything.
Well, yeah, and it's right at the top of the hill from where we're at right now.
Right.
So, we could always walk up there. I always loved that part of it, man. That's the little go-to.
Yeah, I was mentioning when I got here, I GPS'd it just for the hell of it, and it said it's 0.3 miles. And it wouldn't give driving directions, just walking directions. So, yeah, we're pretty close.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man, that's it. We're all done. We're all done with time. We're out of time. This was awesome. I really appreciate you coming down.
Thanks for having me. Again, I'm a fan of the show. You guys are you're the next generation.
Dude, I really appreciate that. You have no
idea.
idea.
21st century rock and roll grassroots marketing.
Yeah, and make sure.
That's what this is.
All right, that's it. Thanks again, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
That'll be fine.